Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are breaking down week 13 of fantasy hockey. We're going to be looking at all the must-add players on the waiver wire, buy low targets, and the week 13 schedule, which teams have the best schedule, which teams have the worst schedule, and which streamers you should add to help you win your matchup. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Before we get into the week 13 schedule and which streamers to add for the week, I want to talk about must-add players on the waiver wire, starting with forwards. In terms of how I rank these players, I took everything into consideration, which team they're playing on, their deployment, their potential, their peripherals. I ranked them from 1 to 12. So let's start with number 1, Max Pacioretty of the Carolina Hurricanes. We just got an update a couple of days ago from coach Rod Brindamore, who has said that Pacioretty will be back within 10 games. The 10th game is January 19th, so he should be back before then. He could even be back next week. We don't know, but at least we know that he will be back in the next 3 weeks, which is massive. I've talked about Pacioretty in previous videos, but he is an absolute beast if he can stay healthy. He's a point per game player who can score like 30 to 40 goals in a full healthy 82 game season. On a Hurricanes team that is really good, he is going to excel, and hopefully he can be on that first line and on that first line power play. Number 2 is Travis Konecny of the Philadelphia Flyers. He currently has 34 points in 30 games this season, 17 goals in 30 games. He is having a monster season. He also puts up really good peripherals, takes a lot of shots, makes some hits as well. His shooting percentage is a little bit high, but I think he can keep up this type of production. For now, at only 65% rostered, I think he is super underrated, and this should keep going up as the season continues. Number 3 is Tomas Hertl of the San Jose Sharks. He's been amazing this season with 35 points in 35 games. His shooting percentage is sustainable. It's the same as last year when he put up 30 goals. The only reason his rostered is only at 68% is because he only has center eligibility. If not, it would be way higher. If you were looking to replace a center with somebody, I think Hertl is that guy. He also puts up amazing peripherals, takes a lot of shots and hits. I really do think Hertl is going to keep up this production and be an amazing fantasy player moving forward. Number 4 is Anders Lee of the New York Islanders, who has been on a tear as of late. He has 13 goals and 28 points in 37 games, and he puts up amazing peripherals, taking so many shots and also hits as well. Lee has been a pretty consistent 30+ goal scorer in this league, and he's on pace to hit that mark again. His deployment is great, first line and first line power play, and I think he's just a really solid option for the rest of your fantasy season. Number 5 is Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals, and he is set to return very soon from his ACL surgery. He's been practicing with the team for a couple of weeks. He's in a non-contact jersey, so I expect him to be back in the next 1 or 2 weeks. He was skating on the first line with Alexander Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom, so if he's on that line, there is a lot of potential. He could find himself on the first line power play as well, and he was really good last season, putting up career numbers and points. He had 24 goals and a total of 52 points in 78 games, but if your league counts hits, that is what really matters for Wilson. He had something like 250 hits last season, one of the best hitting forwards in the league, so I suggest you add him even if it means you miss out on some games for the next week or two. Number 6 is Brandon Hagel of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who has been really good this season with 27 points in 34 games and also putting up 13 goals. The reason I think Hagel has so much potential is because he's playing on the first line with Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, and also on the first line power play with all those guys plus Stamkos and Hedman. I really do like Hagel moving forward. He also puts up great peripherals, so I think this is a solid add long term. Number 7 is Riley Smith of the Vegas Golden Knights, and even though he's outperforming a few of these guys above him, I have him a little bit lower because his shooting percentage is high and he is outperforming his last couple of seasons, so I don't know if this production is sustainable. Either way, he has 17 goals in 38 games, so he's on pace for like 35+ goals on the season. If he can keep this up, he is going to be one of the best snipers in the league. This could be a career year for Riley Smith. The Golden Knights are a great team, and he's playing on the top 6 and the first line power play, so this is a really good long-term hold if he's sitting on your waiver wire. Number 8 is Andrei Kuzmenko of the Vancouver Canucks. This is his first year in the league, and he's playing absolutely incredible with 32 points in 34 games, almost a point per game player. He also has 15 goals, and he's a +11 on a pretty bad Canucks team. He is playing on a line with Elias Pettersson, who he has a lot of chemistry with, and he has found himself on the first line power play for a decent amount of the season. The Canucks can score a lot of goals, and I expect him to be a 70-point player. The only downside to Kuzmenko is that he doesn't put up any peripherals, so that is not a good thing if your league counts those. Either way, he is going to put up a lot of points, so I think he is a solid add moving forward. Number 9 is Nick Schmaltz of the Arizona Coyotes, one of the biggest sleepers on the waiver wire at only 25% rostered. Last year, he was almost a point per game player with 59 points in 63 games, and he's kept up this production this year, putting up 16 points in 19 games and also potting in 7 goals. The Coyotes just beat the Avalanche and the Leafs back to back. They are playing really well. He's on the first line and the first line power play, and I think this roster percentage is way too low, especially with dual eligibility. This is one of the biggest steals on the waiver wire in most leagues, so I think you should take a look at him or add him for long term because I think he's going to continue this production. Number 10 is Victor Arvidsson of the Los Angeles Kings, and that second line on the Kings has been on absolute fire. He currently has 29 points in 35 games and also 10 goals, and also 12 power play points. Last year, Arvidsson was really solid. He had 49 points in 66 games, also putting in 20 goals, and he takes a ton of shots. I think because the Kings can score a lot of goals, he gets good power play time, and he is a sniper, he is a really solid add, and I would definitely take a look at him. Number 11 is Jared McCann of Seattle Kraken, another huge sleeper on the waiver wire with 16 goals in 30 games. He's on pace for over 40 goals in a full 82-game season, and he's playing better in terms of goal scoring than Austin Matthews. Now, he does score a lot of goals, but he doesn't put up a lot of assists. He also doesn't have the best peripherals either. He doesn't take a lot of shots, surprisingly, and that is why his shooting percentage is so high. Because his percentage is high, I do expect some regression, which is why he's lower on this list, but maybe he can keep it up. The last player on this forward list is Philip Deneau of the Los Angeles Kings, and like I said with Arvidsson, that second line on the Kings has been on absolute fire. He has 8 points in his last 6 games, and last year he was really good, so I think he can put up this type of production. This year, he has 28 points in 39 games, with also 11 goals. Even though center is a bloated position, the Kings can score a lot of goals. Deneau puts up great peripheral, so if your league counts those, he could be a really good add long term. Moving on to must-add defensemen, we have 5 guys on this list. Number 1 being Shane Gostisbehere of the Arizona Coyotes, and he is so slept on at only 64% rostered. This guy had 14 goals and 51 points in 82 games last season. He puts up great peripherals too, and this year he has kept up a similar pace. Through 34 games this year, he has 9 goals and 26 points. That is amazing for a defenseman. His shooting percentage is a little bit high right now, so I do expect a little bit of regression, but in terms of the points that he's putting up and his peripherals, he is an amazing add for your team long term. Number 2 is a guy that's roster has gone up considerably in the past 2 weeks, and that man is Erik Gustafsson of the Washington Capitals. He has been on fire as of late, and with John Carlson out, this gives him the opportunity to be the number 1 offensive defenseman on the Washington Capitals. In his last 6 games, he has 5 goals and a total of 10 points. He has been on fire. I do expect some regression because his shooting percentage is really high, and the fact that the Capitals have been streaking, but with Carlson out for an undetermined amount of time, this means that Gustafsson's value could be insane for your fantasy team. I definitely would add him if you need a defenseman. Number 3 on this list is Jared Spurgeon of the Minnesota Wild. He is playing okay this year with 16 points in 35 games, but this is really a peripheral play. If your league values peripherals, he puts up a lot of shots, blocks, and hits. Unfortunately, Spurgeon is not on the first line power play. Kalen Addison is, but maybe he will find himself back on that first line power play in the near future. That would be massive for him. Last year, he had 10 goals and 40 points in 65 games, so if he could replicate that type of season, he could be really good moving forward. Number 4 is Dmitry Orlov of the Washington Capitals, kind of a peripheral play as well. He puts up a lot of shots, blocks, and hits, so if your league counts those, that is massive, but he is kind of underrated on the point side too. He had 12 goals and 35 points in 76 games last year, which is really good. Any defenseman putting up more than 10 goals is solid. You also got to think about John Carlson, who may be out for the rest of the season. We don't know just yet. If that is the case, that boosts Orlov's value, and he's likely going to put up more points. Moving on to must-add goalies, we have 4 guys on this list that could be really good long-term options for your fantasy teams. Number 1 being Karel Vejmelka of the Arizona Coyotes. At only 51% rostered, Vejmelka is super underrated. It might depend on your league settings, but in one of my leagues, he is a top 10 goaltender because he makes so many saves. His record is 11-9-1. His save percentage is .910%, and he is starting the majority of the games for the Coyotes. With the Coyotes showing that they can win games, Vejmelka is a really good option if you're looking for a goaltender. Number 2 is another super underrated goaltender at only 36% rostered. That is Phoenix Copley of the Los Angeles Kings with a record of 8-1-1 and a goals against average of 2.58. He started 8 of the last 10 games for the Kings, so he could be taking over that starting role that Jonathan Quick used to have. Keep an eye on him. If you are looking to replace a goalie with someone, Copley could be that goaltender, or if you're just looking to add a goalie in general, Copley is a really good add. Number 3 is Minnesota Wild goaltender Philip Gustafsson at only 34%. I think this is going to keep going up as the season goes on because currently he is splitting starts with Marc-Andre Fleury. In fact, Gustafsson has actually outplayed Fleury on the season. Comparing their stats, Philip Gustafsson has a 2.34 goals against average and a .92 save percentage, amazing, and then Fleury only has a 2.85 goals against average and a .903 save percentage. Gustafsson's record is 8-5-1 and I think if he continues his play, they have no choice but to give him starts. This is a really good situation moving forward. Very briefly, I want to talk about buy low targets. I talked about most of these guys in the buy low video I did 2 days ago, and I do want to say that I crossed off Alexander Barkov on this list now. He had a 5-point night last night, and I don't think you are going to get a discount on him anymore. Either way, all these other guys are still viable buy low options. I did add John Carlson to this list because he's definitely a good buy low candidate if you have an IR spot open. He's injured for an undetermined amount of time, so you could get a steal on him if he comes back. This could be a league winning move. If you want to know more about these players in depth, go watch that video that I posted 2 days ago, but we will move on to the schedule. Moving on to the week 13 schedule, we have a bunch of teams with 4 games this week, 7 teams to be exact. I've ranked them in terms of the number of off nights. The number 1 team to stream this week is the Anaheim Ducks, who have all games that are off nights: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. At number 2, we have the Boston Bruins, 4 games and 2 off nights. Same with the Washington Capitals and the Arizona Coyotes. They also have 4 games and 2 off nights. Then we have 3 teams that have 4 games but only 1 off night. So if your schedule this week happens to not be very heavy, these teams could be good options for you. Teams with the worst schedule that you want to avoid adding players from, there are 3 teams on this list with only 2 games. Buffalo Sabres having 2 games that are on heavy nights, which is not good. You don't want to add anyone from this team for the week. The next 2 teams being Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks. The Senators also have no off nights as well. Really bad team to stream this week. Sharks have 1 off night, but still with 2 games, not a good option. The best streamers to add this week, we have 13 guys on this list. I rank them in terms of off nights and how good they are as players. Number 1 being Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. He has put up a lot of points as of late. He's on the first line power play, and I know he isn't the greatest player on this list, but the Ducks have 4 off nights, so this could be really good, maximizing the amount of games you have this week. Number 2, another Ducks player, Adam Henrique. He has been okay this year as well. He had a better season last year, but he still can put up points, and with 4 off nights, he's a really solid option. Number 3, Taylor Hall, who has 27 points in 35 games. The Bruins are a really good team. They have 4 games and 2 off nights, so this is a really good ad. Number 4 is Nick Schmaltz. Talked about him earlier in terms of a long-term ad, but he's also a really good short-term ad for this week because the Coyotes have 4 games and 2 off nights. He's been on fire as of late. Number 5, David Krejci, playing on the line with Pasternak, has put up a lot of points this season. Doesn't score a lot of goals, but puts up a lot of assists, passing it to David Pasternak. With 4 games and 2 off nights, a really solid option as well. Number 6, Lawson Krause, another Coyotes player who has been really good this year with 14 goals in 33 games. He's on pace for over 30 goals in a full season. He also puts up good peripherals too. With 4 games and 2 off nights, this is a really good option. Number 7 is Connor Sheary of the Washington Capitals, another guy with 4 games and 2 off nights. He has played solid this year with 11 goals and 24 points in 38 games. Right now, he's playing on the first line in the first line power play, and with the Capitals playing really well as of late, I think Sheary is an amazing option for this week. Number 8 is another Capitals player, Dylan Strome, 4 games and 2 off nights. Not as good as Sheary in my opinion in terms of a stream for this week, but he can still put up really good points playing on the first line. Number 9, another Capitals player. I normally don't put defensemen on this list because forwards are generally better to stream, but I had to put Gustafsson on this list because he's been so good. He has 5 goals and a total of 10 points in his last 6 games. He's on the first line power play, and I think he can put up a lot of points this week. Number 10, Michael Bunting, a really good player, playing on the first line power play in the first line with Austin Matthews, and he is lower on this list because although he does have 4 games, he only has 1 off night. If your schedule isn't that heavy, he could be a better ad than some of the guys above him, but for now, I have him at number 10. Number 11, like Bunting, he has 4 games, but only 1 off night, so if you don't have a heavy schedule, he could be a really good ad. Blues are kind of hot and cold, but he's still a really solid player who can score goals and put up points. He had 11 shots last game, so he puts up decent peripherals. He can definitely put up a lot of points in any given week. Number 12, Robert Thomas, a guy that has 32 points in 35 games. Puts up a lot of assists, but doesn't score a lot of goals, which is why he's lower on this list. But he has 4 games and 1 off night. Unfortunately, he doesn't put up amazing peripherals, but this is still a really good option because he had 77 points in 72 games last year, so he's going to put up points most nights. Number 13, Calle Jarnkrok of the Maple Leafs. He's been really good as of late with 9 points in his last 8 games. He's playing on the top 6. I think he's playing on a line with Mitchell Marner. Doesn't see first line power play time, but does see second line power play time. So I think this is a really good option. All position eligibilities, 4 games and 1 off night, so could be a good stream for this week. For goalie streamers, we have some amazing options for this week. First player being John Gibson of the Anaheim Ducks, who has 4 games and they are all off nights. So there's a chance you could play 4 games this week. I'm looking at the score of the Nashville and Anaheim Ducks game right now, and they did just lose 6-1. Gibson led in 6 goals, so kind of a risk, but either way, he always makes a lot of saves. So I think if he squeezes out a win or 2 in here, he could be an amazing stream for the entire week. Number 2, Karel Vejmelka. The Coyotes have been streaking as of late, beating the Avalanche and the Leafs back-to-back. He has been playing really solid as of late. The Coyotes let a lot of shots against, so he's going to make a lot of saves regardless if he gets a win or not. And they have 4 games, only 2 off nights, but all of these games, there's no back-to-back. So there is a chance he plays 4 games this week, which could be massive in a lot of fantasy points. Number 3 is Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins. The Bruins are the best team in the league, and I'm kind of shocked that Allmark has been splitting starts with Swayman as of late. Allmark is 21-1 on the season. They do have a back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, which means that Swayman is guaranteed 1 start, but if they are splitting starts like they have been the past 2 weeks, Swayman is guaranteed to get 2 starts this week. 2 starts on the best team in the league could be 2 guaranteed wins, and that could likely be more fantasy points than a forward that's playing 4 games. The last thing we were talking about are the best back-to-back goalies this week, and this is so massive for any fantasy week. You might want to write down some of this so you can schedule out your ads, and you can be on it before everybody else is. Number 1 is Jeremy Swayman. Like I talked about in terms of him being an ad for the entire week, he's also a really good ad for the back-to-back that the Bruins have Saturday and Sunday, because Sunday they play one of the worst teams in the NHL, the Anaheim Ducks. Number 2 is another goalie that is likely going to play the Anaheim Ducks. They usually give the worst team on a back-to-back to the backup goaltender. Nothing is guaranteed, but I love starting a goaltender against the second worst team in the league, so definitely take a look at Scott Wedgwood when Wednesday comes around. Number 3 is Tampa Bay Lightning goaltender Brian Elliott. I know that Vasi just started a back-to-back and Elliott didn't play well in his last game. If you don't look at that game and you look at the rest of the games, he has played pretty good this season, and I don't know if they are going to give Vasi another back-to-back. So if he does play, he's likely playing against Chicago on Tuesday. Chicago is the worst team in the league, so this should be a really good ad. Number 4 is Philip Gustafsson of the Minnesota Wild. The Wild have a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday versus either the Sabres or the Blues. So if Gustafsson starts against any one of these teams, this could be a really good goalie stream. Number 5 and 6, Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood. They have a back-to-back Wednesday and Thursday, either against the Wings or the Blues. The Red Wings are likely a better team to stream against, but even the Blues are a good team to stream against as well. All right, guys, before you click off this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you aren't subscribed. Also hit that like button too if you enjoyed this content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Like always, have a good one.